The most infamous knights in history. Let's start with Hugue De Lacy. Hugue De Lacy was an English knight in the 1100s who became infamous for his extreme violence and betrayal in Ireland. King Henry II, who was his current lord at the time, gave him land in Meath in 1172. But De Lacy didn't want to rule, even though he was technically a lord. Instead, he wanted to do other stuff. Not good stuff, I assure you. His first major crime happened when an Irish leader named Tigernán invited him to peace talks at the Abbey of St. Thomas the Martyr. Instead of negotiating, which you are supposed to do when you are invited to negotiate, De Lacy decided to kill Tigernán and 150 unarmed Irish nobles. Then, if taking their lives wasn't bad enough, he stuck their heads on spikes to scare others into obeying him. His cruelty was planned to create fear, and if you think that's messed up, wait till you hear the next things he did. He built castles out of whim, not for protection, but to torture prisoners, hanging their bodies on the walls to rot. He burned hundreds of Irish people alive in a church at Slane, calling their screams noise from sinners. And if that still doesn't convince you, well, his worst act was a bit more personal. He married an Irish princess named Rose to gain power and a foothold towards the Irish, who he then strangled with his own hands in 1180 after she had his son. He didn't want the boy to have Irish heritage, saying he didn't need barbarian blood. The Irish hated him so much they nicknamed him the Devil's Taxman, which was oddly fitting. His brutal reign ended in 1186 when an Irish worker pretending to be loyal attacked him with an axe while he was building another castle. De Lacy's body was left for wild dogs to eat, which I guess was a fitting end for a man who destroyed villages, killed innocent people, and stole land to feed his greed. His actions left Meath in chaos for years and showed how English rulers used extreme violence to control Ireland. Gerard de Ridefort. Gerard de Ridefort was the leader of the Knights Templar from 1184 to 1189, and his terrible choices and pride caused huge problems for Christians in the Holy Land. He started as a knight with no land. He was furious after a ruler named Raymond III of Tripoli broke a promise to give him territory. Instead of focusing on the Templars' job, which is protecting pilgrims and fighting for God, Ridefort used his power to get revenge. His worst mistake happened at the Battle of Cresson at 1187. Angry at Raymond, he attacked 7,000 Muslim soldiers with just 140 knights, even though he knew they'd lose. Almost all of his men died, not surprisingly, but Ridefort escaped. Things got even worse at the Battle of Haddon. On July 1187, Ridefort convinced King Guy of Jerusalem to march the army into a desert with no water during the hottest time of the year. Muslim leader Saladin surrounded them, burned plants to choke them with smoke, and destroyed the Christian army. Over 20,000 soldiers were killed or captured. Jerusalem fell to Muslims soon after, and the Christians lost their holiest relic, the true cross. Ridefort was captured, but was soon released when his friends paid money to free him, while his men were being beheaded by Saladin. Now, if you were at the lowest point of your career, I guess that you would be guilty and wish that you'd done better with your time. Be good and all that Samaritan stuff. Well, not Ridefort. Instead of admitting his mistakes, Ridefort stole gold from pilgrims to pay for more failed battles. He died in 1189 during a siege, when a giant stone from a catapult crushed him. Talk about a crushing end. Konrad von Tannenberg. Konrad von Tannenberg was a brutal Teutonic knight in the 14th century who spread fear across Prussia and Lithuania during the Northern Crusades. Known as the Wolf of Christ, he used religion as an excuse for extreme cruelty. His reign of terror began in 1377 with the massacre of Medininkai, where he tricked Lithuanian nobles into peace talks under a white flag of truce. Once they were disarmed, he ordered his men to slit their throats and dump their bodies into a river, claiming their pagan blood would make Christian soil stronger. Tannenberg's campaigns were filled with horrors. Villages that refused to convert to Christianity were burned to the ground. Children were stabbed on spikes to scare rebels, and prisoners were burned alive as gifts to God. He even nailed the skinned bodies of Lithuanian elders to church doors to frighten people into obeying him. His cruelest idea was the iron harvest, forcing converted Prussians to kill their own family members or be burned alive. He bragged about killing 2,000 people by 1382, keeping a list of his victims. But his arrogance led to his downfall. In 1390, while attacking a neighboring land, he ignored warnings of a Lithuanian counterattack. Too obsessed with destroying the city, trapped in a burning siege tower, he begged for mercy. But the Lithuanian rebels knew better. They dragged him into the forest, skinned him alive, and cut him into pieces. His head was put on a spear as a symbol of resistance. The Teutonic Order tried to erase him from history, but Baltic folklore remember him as Belnio Artojas, the devil's plowman, a monster who turned holy war into pure evil. Tannenberg's legacy shows how even religious missions can become excuses for cruelty, which, thank God, he ended the way he did. Quick disclaimer, the last one is so bad that I refuse to draw the things he has done. You can do a quick fact check on him. But I recommend to be prepared because it is disgustingly creepy. Gilles De Rais. Gilles De Rais was a 15th century French nobleman and war hero who fought alongside Joan of Arc. But his legacy is stained by unimaginable crimes. After John's execution in 1431, he became obsessed with dark magic and spent his fortune on occult rituals. Between 1432 and 1440, he lured hundreds of peasant children, mostly boys aged 6 to 18, to his castles with promises of works or gifts, then tortured and murdered them in horrific ways. Witnesses said he hung children alive on hooks, cut them apart for fun, and forced them to perform before beheading them. He kept their heads in jars ranked by beauty, and used their bloods in rituals to summon demons, hoping to regain his lost wealth. With the help of a dark magic expert, he sacrificed victims in secret rooms lit by candles made from human fat. His servants helped hide bodies in moats or burned them in furnaces. Gilles de Rais' crimes were exposed in 1440 after he kidnapped a priest during an argument, leading authorities to search his castles. They found child remains and occult objects at his trial. Survivors described his cruelty with utmost horrifying degrees. Under threat of torture, he confessed to the killings but blamed demons for his actions. He was hanged and burned in 1440, his castles destroyed, and his name erased from history. Was he a psychopath, driven mad by war, or a fanatic obsessed with magic? Whatever the reason, his crimes show how medieval nobles could abuse their power without punishment. Survivors called him Bluebeard, a nickname later used in fairy tales for monsters. Gilles de Rais' story is a terrifying reminder of how evil can grow when no one stops it. Have I changed your opinions about knights? Comment down below and see you on the next one. Stay stable.